like I said, that starting a business is incredibly difficult. Don't let nobody fool you in telling you that starting a business is easy, because that is what we want, right? We want a business. I'm going to briefly go through with you some of the companies that were starting during a massive recession that became massively successful. So stay tuned, because I'm going to show you some of the techniques and some of the ways that they became successful. So companies that were starting during the recession. So before I get into it, I want to let you know that most companies that were started during the recession, these individuals, they had a vision, they had a goal in mind, and nothing was going to get in the way of them achieving the goal. So they knew that it was going to be tough, because when you get into the entrepreneurial world, this is going to be hard. You're not going to depend on a paycheck. If you go work and clock in for somebody else, there's not going to be a guaranteed paycheck, which, by the way, those people, they started with the vision as well. They took a risk, because for the longest time, they probably didn't get paid for them to start the company. So these individuals, they knew that this was going to be hard. It was going to be something that was going to be challenging. And needless to say, why would you start a company during a recession? Sure, isn't that the hardest time, where you ought to be conservative and not to make the wrong decision, and the market instability that you're going to be seeing. I mean, are you crazy? Why would you even start a company during a recession? Well, what if I tell you that there was companies that were started during the recession that if I gave you the names right now, which I'm going to get into right now, you will be surprised how successful they came. But the market instability, the fear of a lot of people who are just pulling back, the little competition that you're going to find yourself if you're starting a company, it's massively reduced. So that almost becomes the perfect storm for a company to start, for an entrepreneur to start a company. So it is no secret, like I said, that starting a business is incredibly difficult. Don't let nobody fool you in telling you that starting a business is easy, because that is what we want, right? We want a business. We always have a dream, even if you don't own a business. I'm sure that at some point you had a dream where you say, I want to work for myself. I want the easy money, right? That's what we like to call it. But it is incredibly difficult to know that when you start a business, this is not easy. And so there's a lot of obstacles that you're going to find yourself. There's going to be a lot of times where you're going to be lonely. There's going to be lots of times where you're just going to say, you know what? Why am I doing this for? There's going to be times where you're going to disconnect from the world, from your family, from your loved ones, spouse if you're married, kids if you have kids. And it's very important at the same time that when you do that you understand that you ought to be connected with them, that you give them the time, that necessary time that they need, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be pushing you. Because in business, there's no such thing as I made it on my own. Maybe you were the one that started the business on your own. But if you really think about it, there was a lot of support behind you, a lot of behind the door support. That was either family, it was friends, kids, co-workers, not co-workers, but kids, family, whatever that was. You had support. You had support at some point. And so there's no such thing as, I did it all on my own. So with that, one of the companies that were started during a great recession was General Electric. This company was actually launched in 1892. And in 2019, they brought in a revenue of $95.2 billion. Okay, billion with a B, $95.2 billion. How many of you have used the dryers, the washing machines with the General Electric logo in there, the microwaves, the dishwasher? I mean, this company was in 1892. You're talking about almost 130 years that this company was started. It survived during that time. But Thomas Edison and the company launched General Electric right when the nation was heading into a panic of 1893 during a recession. So in 1896, it was inducted into the Dow Jones, which is a stock market that tracks the top companies. And not so long ago, it was recently pulled out because the company was not doing so well. But The company is still very much alive. They still provide those electrics that we use at our home. But General Electric was one of the companies that was starting during a recession. The second one was General Motors. Okay, General Motors was starting in 1908. And in 2019 as well, they also brought in a revenue of $137.2 billion. Though through this business, it was still manufacturing homes, drones, carriages in the late 1800s. General Motors, the founder, William Durant, made his transition into the newly created automobile industry in 1904 with the purchase of Buick Motor Company. So again, it's a company that you still have it around. There's, General Motors Company. It's one of the top companies in the country. And a lot of you, I don't personally drive a GM vehicle, but there's a lot of GM vehicles that I see out there. And the company, 1908, over 100 years ago, is still around. The third one that I want to talk to you, this is a very unique company. It was launched in 1929, and in 2019, the revenue was $69.6 billion. That is Disney. Okay, in 1928, the Disney brothers, Walt Disney and Roy Disney, they introduced the world of magic. Not Japan, but I believe it's China where they are, and they pretty much have it started with the dream, with the vision of Walt Disney introducing that to the world, and look at where it became now. Okay, the fourth one, it's HP. I'm a big fan of HP. I don't use Mac computers, Apple computers. I don't know how to use them. I mean, it's not that I don't know how to use them. I just cannot spend a lot of time, with the system that they use. But that is besides the point. HP makes my life so much easier. And this company was introduced in 1939. In 2019, bringing in a revenue of $58.8 billion. Just recently, HP moved from headquarters up in Northern California down to Florida, and this was with everything that we were seeing during the pandemic, the politics that we had here in California. They decided to move the company out to Florida, but that's politics. And while considered small compared to the Great Depression, the recession of 1937 to 1938, it ended up being one of the worst recessions actually of the 20th century. That was with the GDP decline of almost nearly 19%, okay? But nevertheless, they had a vision, okay? William Hewlett and David Packard decided to formulate a plan, okay, that would give the new electronics to the company, and then they ended up naming it Hewlett Packard. Now, the fifth one that I want to introduce to you, because we're getting now into the 2000s, okay? 2007 and 2009 recession, okay? How many of you have ordered in the past a taxi cab? You call a number, you see those yellow cars, Okay, I don't know if maybe you're old enough, maybe you're not, to remember those yellow cabs where you actually had to go to a payphone and put in a quarter for you to call a cab. Okay, well, in 2007 through 2009, there was a company by the name of Uber. Okay, that was introduced. Okay, keep in mind, they don't own a single car within the company, okay, of Uber. This is why it interrupted the entire taxi industry. Okay, this is why it's important when you're creating a company that you're always innovating, because if you don't innovate, somebody else will, and your company eventually will die. Okay, that is as simple as that. If you don't innovate, your company dies. Okay, but in 2007, 2009, Uber was launched, and now when you're with a friend all across the world, not just here in the United States, all across the world, you say, hey, let's call an Uber. You no longer say, let's call a taxi. Maybe just a couple years ago, you were still using the word, let's call up a taxi cab. No longer that's the case. Okay, no longer that's the case. Now it's let's call in an Uber. So for me, this is very, very unique on how they innovated, how they kept that vision in order for them to innovate into what it is now, a Uber. Everybody says, let's call an Uber. The last one that I want to talk to you about, this is very similar to Uber, but this is in the hotel industry. Okay, also, and it was formed in 2007, and it's called here Airbnb. All right, Airbnb has pretty much taken over the entire hotel industry. Okay, and they don't own a single house. This is the power of innovating again. They make more money, they make more revenue, they are worth hundreds of millions of billions of dollars more than the Hyatt. Okay, the Hyatt, one of the high-end hotels, okay, that's been around for many, many, many years. Now here comes a company that says, well, you know what if we innovate? What if we know that families and individuals are still going to travel, but what if we incorporate a business where they don't have to stay at a hotel? Maybe they get to have a kitchen. Maybe they get to have a yard for the weekend. Okay, maybe they want to drive up their car to the driveway. Maybe they want to take their kids, and maybe they want to take another family with them. You can't really do that in hotels. So here comes along Airbnb, innovates in 2007, and it's now what is known Airbnb. Myself, we're gonna go to Airbnb during Christmas time. And for me, it's very unique because my wife and I we're setting up our date that we're going to be traveling, and the first thing that comes to her head is well, let's do an Airbnb. Okay, I mean, I'm old enough to remember that in 2006 we were not saying, well, let's go ahead and Airbnb. We would say, hey, let's go get a hotel for the weekend. Let's go to the Hyatt. Let's go to the Holiday Inn. But now here comes along Airbnb and takes over the company. So what am I trying to say here? I know that I touched 5 companies, but there's a list behind me that it touches other companies that were created. CNN was created during the 1980s recession. Okay, when inflation was 22%, here comes a network company that says, hey, you know what? I can innovate. I can introduce news to the world through television. And they were formed during the 1980s recession. Okay, very similar to what we're seeing right now, inflation. However, inflation back then was over 20%. Today's inflation is 9%. So it's not even comparable to what it was back then, in percentage-wise. But I mean, in dollar-wise, maybe it's a different story. But that's besides the point. The point is that CNN was created during the 1980s. So what I'm trying to say with that is that you got to recognize and seize the opportunity. So what is the point here? The point that I'm trying to give you is very simple. Okay. There's going to be multiple times, actually, a lot of the times that family, friends, coworkers, everybody's going to come up to you and say, well, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you ought to do that. Why would you do that? You're crazy. Why would you even do that? You don't let them steal your dreams, because your dreams are yours. They're not their dreams. So when you are in a position like that, when you face a situation like that, you need to recognize the opportunity and seize it. Okay? Recognize that there's an opportunity and you got to seize that opportunity. Airbnb recognized that there was an opportunity during the Great Recession. Okay, we were during a recession in 2007 and hotels were struggling. Here comes Airbnb, where we don't have the money to buy all these properties, but we can create a win-win. Some of the homeowners, actually, they probably want to rent. They want to make some extra income. Well, how about we do that? We make a small fee out of it and let's see what happens. There it goes. Netflix, same thing. They were not created during the recession, but they saw an opportunity and they seized that opportunity. Number two, you got to stay the course, and you got to have a contingency plan, okay? Because most entrepreneurs, they get into the entrepreneurial world with no second plan. But you got to understand that there's got to be a second plan. Not necessarily of, well, if this doesn't work out, well, I'm going to do that. Okay, because otherwise you're just going to say, well, I'm not going to even do it because I didn't have that to rely on. What I'm talking about is you got to have a plan in the sense of, well, I understand that there's going to be a lot of risk here. I understand that there's going to be this. For whatever reason, it's giving us challenges. It's giving me an opportunity that, that we can do that. Okay, what is our exit strategy? How we're going to be able to come up with the second plan, okay, that we can make this happen. Not for us not to try it again, so that we can make it happen, okay? Number three, don't compromise your standards. Don't compromise them, because if you say that you're going to do something, right, people are expecting you to do it, okay? I'm guilty of that, where I have in the past, I've said, well, I'm going to do this, and I don't do it. I'm guilty of it. So I'm telling you the mistakes that I've made in my life to not do them. I'm not telling you this because I haven't made those mistakes, which brings me to my other point. You need to embrace failure. Okay, that's why we have the name of this channel, Through Failure and Success, because we don't succeed here without failure. We gotta go through the failure. We have to embrace it. We gotta learn from it, and then we gotta adjust. We have to adapt in order for us to be better, to serve, to give more to the community, because there's something in you. Okay, Les Brown says it: the wealthiest place on planet Earth is the grave. Because most people go to that grave without achieving, or not achieving necessarily, but without pursuing their dreams, because somebody else told them that they can't do it. Okay? And so they just gave up. They just gave up. So this is why you got to embrace the failures. I have failed so much over and over and over again. Don't compromise your standards. Okay? Which, number four, which I already said, you got to learn and adapt. You have to learn and adapt. You have to be willing to be open-minded to new ideas, okay? I know personally a company that says to me, it's a good person that I know, and this person says to me, well, the owner doesn't want to change that. They don't want to change the way we do business, because that's the way we've always done business for the past 10 years, okay? But then I asked this individual, how is the company doing? How are the numbers? Because if you don't know this about me, I like to be involved in numbers. I like to track numbers. And so the individual says, well, we're not doing too well. Well, I says, why not? Okay, well, these are our numbers. Well, we keep on hiring. We keep on paying this person for that much, for this position, this person for this position, this person for this position. And then at the end of the day, everybody wants to call the shots. Everybody wants to make decisions, and nothing gets done, because everybody just keeps throwing activities to that person. They just keep throwing, you got to do this and you do that. And then at the end of the day, nothing gets done, because then the other person comes in and says, well, no, I told you not to do that. You're going to do this. And the next thing you know, they contradict each other. Okay. So the reason why they're doing that is because the owner says, we're not going to change anything. We're going to do things the way we've been doing it for the past 10 years. Well, we're 10 years later. 10 years ago was 2012. Technology was not the same 2012 as it is 2022. If you don't innovate, as I was saying earlier, if you don't innovate, your company is eventually going to die. You have to adapt, because our world is constantly changing. 12 years, 10 years ago, now it's 22. That person is into the working world, okay? Now this person is working. This 22-year-old that was 10 years ago, now is saying, well, I have this idea. And if you don't let that person innovate, if you don't let that person contribute to your company to do better, then you eventually are going to die as a company. So that is my takeaway that I want to give to you with this whole thing of recession that we got going on. What's going to happen? There's a lot of uncertainty. I get to talk to a lot of people, and they are afraid of not doing things because they say, well, I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm okay where I'm at. I don't want to make any changes because I'm okay for now. Okay, well then you keep being that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking to the individual who says, I'm looking to do something better, but I'm afraid to do so. Or maybe you already feel once and then you gave up and then you say, you know what? There's a calling in me. There's a calling that I must pursue this. Okay. A lot of the times we say, well, when is God gonna give me come to me? Well, a lot of the times God has already been there. And I say God because I believe in God, but you can believe in whatever you want if you don't believe in God. Okay. This is not a religious thing. Okay. But a lot of the times God is just waiting for you to make the decision. And then we're waiting for God to come to us when God is really waiting on us to make the decision. Okay. So I'm talking to that individual who maybe has already had a failed in life where you feel like maybe this is not for me. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that were wrong, but I'm still here. I'm still here. God gave me the opportunity. God gave me the calling and I'm serving my call. Okay. I'm just bringing some of the failures that I expressed through life, that I went through life, some of the things that maybe I've learned that I believe that are going to serve you. I just want to give those to you. I'm looking for that individual that is looking for another opportunity. Okay, it's looking for another opportunity, and this is my message to you. Be persistent, be open-minded, know that things happen for a reason, but you gotta make that decision. Things are not gonna happen by you sitting down and just waiting for opportunity to come in. You gotta go look for that opportunity. You gotta look for that opportunity, and so that is my purpose of this video. That's the message that I want to give you. That there's opportunity everywhere. And then we just got to be vigilant about training our brains to look for what's good. Because if we tell ourselves what's bad is what's going to be available. We got to train our brains to look for the good. With that being said, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. Our social media is going to be down below. You can hit the bell notification button, which is going to be somewhere up here. But with that being said, the name of our channel is Through Failure and Success. Share it with anybody that you may know. You may think that it may get some value out of some wisdom, some words that I might have said to you, so that therefore they can get some value as well. With that being said, take care, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, everyone.